welcome to another edition of Motivational Sundays with Kevin and Friends. This show was originally created from the more than 300 motivational quotes that I had created for the contents of my book. But I had a bunch of wonderful friends on here, and let me introduce you to my co-host, Larnez Kinsey, the lovely Denise Lopes. All right, and my brother from another mother, and the voice of our show, Naheem Garcia. But anyway, let me tell you about how this show came about. I had over these 300 motivational quotes, and one day it popped in my head. This is not all about me. I was always wondering how one quote landed on one person. Were there words that just landed on a page, or were there a conversation that needed to be had? So we got together and said, let's talk about it because we all have a quote or a conversation that kind of we carry with us based on our interpretation and perspectives. We talk about these quotes. So each week, one of us brings a quote. Today, this happened to be in our social media chat. And so the quote we're bringing today, we meet every Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is probably the only podcast that our listeners are welcome to join in. And if you do decide, go to our webpage or go to our link on YouTube and go to RMK Production and Network. Click on the link, get the information, and show up on Sundays. We start 15 minutes before the hour, so that way we can get sound check and everything else. But anyway, without any further ado, let me turn the mic over to the voice of our show so you guys can get the quote of the day. I'm going to tell you, it's going to make you think today. So, Naheem, if you don't mind.
I don't. If God could take someone away that you thought you never lose, imagine the person he can give you that you thought you never find.
That quote makes you think. Well, let me turn it
Chew on
over
that one.
to, yeah, let me turn it over to our educator, Miss Denise Lopes, and let's see how this quote lands on you.
Oh, good morning, Grand Rising, everyone. This quote is deep. It takes me back to rejection is protection. When
Mm.
God takes somebody from you, He's protecting you from something. And sometimes you think that's the end of the world, that I'm never going to find somebody else. And after the person that shows up is everything you've been dreaming about, that you thought you would never had somebody that would do the stuff that will be there for you. And it's not just romantic, like friends too, because that could happen with friends. Because sometimes, like for me, I've lost a friendship. I lost a 19-year friendship, and it was like, why? And after it got to me because the person started doing stuff that I was not in line with. That was stuff that I would not be able to do, like going places that I wouldn't see myself going with the energy. And that was for me, that was protection. And that's how this landed on me.
The bar is set.
The bar is set, raise it up, raise it up, raise it up. Now, if you notice that normally you have about 8 to 12 people on here. We normally go queen to king and king to queen. But this is a funny story. We were talking about this before the show, how this quote came about. And Miss Larnez straightened me out because I thought, she had put it in there to share with everyone. And I thought this was quote she was bringing today. And guess what? To my surprise, I get corrected. All right. But since there's only two queens and a king, I'm a Southern boy. All right. I was always taught to open up a door for a woman, to pull out of the chair. All right. And to treat her special, no matter if she's mine or someone else's. All right. That's just the way we were taught. I wish we would go back to being kind to people and just because and not try to insert something or impose something on someone else that they're not ready for. No, I'll tell you this story another day. But anyway, Larnez, all right, the queen, all right, she is killing it over there on the East Coast in New York, stepping up with NAACP, giving speeches, giving them something to think about. Miss Larnez, okay, as dynamic as you are right now, and as many things that you are doing to change the community and uplift all people, not just our people, all people. How did this quote land on you?
I receive all of that. Thank you and Radiant Rising. To me, this was a very heavy quote. This means the very God who allowed the ground to crack beneath you, who stripped from your hands the soul you thought was permanent, is also the same God who holds a mystery on the other side of pain. If loss could come so sudden, then so can blessing. If you could be undone without warning, you can also be remade without warning. It is not about death or separation or endings. It's about the alchemy of grief, the teaching that when your heart is shattered, it becomes a vessel wide enough to carry a love or connection you would never have recognized if you stayed whole. This quote, to me, dares you to believe that God's balance is not cruelty. It is transformation, that the weight of the absence you feel now is equal to the weight of the presence that one day will meet you. And it will not be what you expect. It will be stranger, deeper, sharper, holier. So if God can devastate, God can also deliver. If God can tear the one you thought you'd never live without away from you, God can also hand you the soul you thought never could exist for you. Your grief is proof of your capacity. If you could love that deeply once, then you are capable of being surprised by a love, a kinship, a bond even more unthinkable. So the lesson is this: don't measure life by what God took from you. Measure your faith by what God is preparing you for. The person, the opportunity, the miracle you thought was impossible, that was always on its way. And that's how this hit me.
Yeah, show's over now.
Show's over. I got nothing.
I got nothing. I don't need to say anything. What I got to say.
Hey, to my listeners, this is what happens every single Sunday. We bring a quote, okay, and like I said, the interpretation of someone's quote from one person to another is just like a story being told. The original story is told to one person. The act two is told to the third person, and then act four creates a whole nother story. So based on your interpretation and perspective, but I want you to hold on to the first act. I want you to go ahead and, like a glass of fine wine, that expensive stuff that you only get when you visit someone else's house. All right. You take Larnez and you just sip on it, swirl it in your mouth, and get all the effervescence of it and just take it. Okay.
This is a kid-friendly show.
Kid-friendly show. I want you to take that quote and I want you to let it just settle and appreciate. And then what I want you to do is go out your front door and look up at the sky and thank God. All right. Because this quote is a blessing for you. And the interpretation perspective is being shared with you is that gift of not what you lost, but what you have gained from just this couple of minutes on the show. So the voice of our show is going to repeat the quote for those of you that are just tuned in, or some of you guys that just tuned out and now tuning back in. We're going to remind you, and then we're going to hear what the voice has to say.
If God could take someone away that you thought you would never lose, imagine the person that he can give you that you thought you never find. This makes me think about my grandmother, who died on November 11th of 2011, right? And it's also the Naheem Garcia Day. But this is how it worked. My grandmother passed away. I thought we wouldn't lose it for a long time. And sometimes when you lose somebody, you're replaced with somebody else. It's the same thing with love, same thing with jobs, same thing with everything. You are blessed to have what you receive when it is time. Law deals with nature. Nature, the law of nature is God's law, as they say. Time and a timetable that we put on things is not on us to do so. So when we lose something that's precious to us, we got to understand that we have now received the time and the patience to receive a blessing. But you have to be ready for that blessing. You have to be ready to receive that blessing. You can't just get somebody wonderful to come in your life if you're not ready to receive them and give them what they need. So stop being impatient. Be very patient. and be very wise, but make sure your infrastructure is prepared to receive the love that's coming your way. Because the love lost is a love gain. Even the love that's lost is still gain, because you gain from that loss. You gain from that loss through time and patience. So I don't know if I actually answered the question, the quote the way it did, but it fell on me in a way to say, if something goes, something better comes. Just got to be patient.
And that's something we have to learn to live with. Delayed gratification is coming. You just got to be patient. They Dr. Stan is not here, but from what I remember, it says if you ask, you shall receive. It's probably
Mm-hmm.
not quite the way it is, but
Knock and
God,
you shall enter. Ask, you shall receive. Seek and you shall find. Those are the three. They go in a different order, but those are the three.
yeah. And believe it or not, a lot of people were impatient, and God gives it to you when you're ready for it, not
Mm-hmm.
when you're asked for it. He gives it to you, and that's the reason why you got to be clear in your ask.
Mm-hmm.
So the quote here, much like Naheem, it took me to a place. And when you acknowledge of losing someone, you believe that your world is coming to an end. We've all have been there. We've all stood over and watched someone walk out of our lives that we thought would never walk out. We unexpected get a phone call. Someone that we had just talked to, someone we just hung up to, had been called home, and we weren't ready for that delivery. You know, and so right now, God has given me a gift to being surrounded by some wonderful people. Naheem, Denise, Barnes. A couple of weeks ago, I met in Boston, Massachusetts, with Dave, very talented film director, Naheem, a prolific actor, singer, coach, teacher, and just a downright good human being, to work on a book that we're turning into a screenplay for a feature film called Sprinkles, The True Spirit of Christmas, author Kevin McLemore. It's not the first time we try to put this together. And the reason why this quote landed on me, it took me back. There was a brother by the name of Jason Arrington. He was a CBS producer, good friend of mine, hung out in New York. He had read my book, Sprinkles, and says, we want to make it into a movie. We had spent 6 or 7 months putting things together. We had a business plan, everything. And then in November, I got a phone call. He had told me that he had brain cancer and they gave him 30 days to live.
Mm.
All right. And we had just gotten
Mm.
everything together. We had actors, we had, people ready to start acting for Sprinkles, and we had money, Naheem. We had money, which is hard to do in film. That's how great it was. My attorney, James Beard, was Michael Jackson's attorney. He was representing us. And all of a sudden, Jason said, there's something I have to do before I leave this earth. He wanted to see the seven wonders of the world. And he had taken off, and he had went out, and at that time we didn't have texting. We had pagers and stuff, and called. And every time he told me how beautiful it was when he saw, went to Niagara Falls, and then he saw the falls in, was it in Brazil or whatever those, whatever the seven wonders were. But he came back and he lived beyond 30 days. Um, March, the eve of March 1st, Jason passed away. Devastated. At the eve of March, the morning of March 1st, my oldest son, Alexander, was born. So when you talk about God takes someone that you thought you'd never lose away, and then he gives you someone you thought you'd never find, my oldest son was born. 6 minutes after the birth of my oldest son, my closest aunt that held my hand, that patted me on the head, that kicked me in the butt, she passed away 6 minutes after Alex was born. So, when you speak of hope and the divine power and the capability of overcoming um, some of the most drastic and most painful things in the world, we as human beings, when we're tied to our faith, we are capable of a strength that's stronger than any storm that comes. And the reason why that strength is so powerful is not because you stand alone in the presence of God. You stand in his faith holding hands with Naheem, Denise, Larnez, Dave, Dr. Breakthrough, D'Angelo, Gilda, Chris, Otis. This is what happens is when you are looking for that person you thought you'd never find, just reach out your hand. Someone will be there.
Someone would grab it. Mm-hmm.
There you go. So that's how the quote landed on me. So hopefully everyone that is watching this show, that you've enjoyed it and have this conversation with someone close to you. Ask this, the question, if God takes someone away that from you that you thought you'd never lose, imagine the person that God gives you that you thought you'd never find. Ask that question. So if you like what you heard on this show, we meet every Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. In the show link on our YouTube page, go to RMK Productions and Network on our YouTube page and look up Motivational Sundays with Kevin and Friends, and you'll find the link. You're more than welcome. You know, the only thing we ask you not to bring any drama. That's not that type of show. We know there's a lot going on in this world, and we're not talking about it, but we have talked about it. And but this show is not about that. This is all about bringing something positive and speaking our own truth. So, with that said, all right, you're welcome to be a guest. My grandfather always said, when you get to a place in life that you can help someone else out, he said it's your duty to do so. He said, reach one, teach one, and we do what?
With that, we fade to black.
Make sure you come back.
All right. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. We'll talk to you later. Bye. Reach one, teach one.